And we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to A Branch of Laurels. My name is Ashaksi. I am a Laurel from the Kingdom of Ontir. And this is a weekly interview series with members of the Order of the Laurel from around the known world. And tonight, my guest is Gorandookht Mamigonian. She was laureled in Ontir and currently lives in the Kingdom of CAID. And she also sang at my laureling and has been an inspiration to me for a very long time. So welcome, and I'm very excited.
Thank you. Yay.
So how did you find the SCA, Goran?
I'm going to start the way Armenians start stories when they do storytelling. Once there was not. This Armenian girl from Lebanon who with her family went to this heritage festival outside of Seattle. And there were all sorts of groups. There was like pioneer type groups, ethnic groups, and all kinds of activities. And they had in this one area what they called medieval village. And that was what the SCA was doing. They were doing a demo. So I told my family, listen, I'm going to go check this out because medieval period is one of the periods, I'm into. So I told them I'm going to go check it out and I'll meet you guys at the dance stage here, But what ended up happening is I spent the whole day there because the minute I came there, and it was just your average, there was like a tournament going on and different booths with arts demo type stuff going on. But it was like, it felt right. It's like, these are my people. And it was just this tingly kind of feeling like, ooh, So, I remember seeing some, it was all like, I hardly paid attention to the tournament because I didn't know anybody, but I do remember Master Payne. It's the kind of guy you don't forget. Yep. He was showing a game of bowls. There was like a giant spinning wheel. There was things that I'd never seen before, really. And I spent most of the day talking to the poor Chatelaine. And I got on the mailing list and I got the Madrona Leaf, the Seattle area newsletter, which is great, but I lived in Olympia. So I forget about the SCA for a while, for a few months, because I thought the SCA only existed in Seattle. And I wasn't willing to drive through an hour and a half, 2 hours of traffic to go to an event or fight practice or whatever, Those were the days, when you're not willing to do that, So, so I forgot about the SCA. And then this was 1984, this happened. So in 85, the local newspaper in Olympia did an article about the local SCA, and they were talking about Mayfair, which is the big event for the Olympia here. This was at the time known as the Shire of Everclear. It is now the Barony of Glamere. And in the article, there was a picture of then Richard Fitzallen. Now he is Sir Richard. Fergus Fitzallen. Now he's Sir Richard Fitzallen. And it was him, his wife, and his child. They were all in garb. And my mind went like, because it was like, holy cow, there's like a local group of this SCA that I went and saw up in Seattle. This is just absolutely exciting. That means I don't have to drive an hour and a half for, fire practice or whatever. So I couldn't go to Mayfair on Saturday because of family commitments, but I went Sunday, and it was like a bigger version of that demo in Seattle, tournaments and booths, all sorts of things, and it was hot. It was that I remember. There was like, I think I try to remember this when I meet new people. Is I remember that it was just so many fights and sounds and things that I've never seen before, and my brain couldn't catch up with my senses, you know. So I'm just so overwhelmed. But I do remember the first person probably or pretty close to that I met was Countess Dara, because she was probably working at Gate. And I thought, well, this is a good sign. She's a Greek girl, and it won't be so weird to be part of this SCA group because there's at least one person in here who can relate to me or who I can relate to. So it won't be such a strange, you know, group. So I won't feel like such a stranger. So yeah, that was, you know, the next. I didn't really, like an idiot. Well, first of all, like an idiot, I didn't take any pictures. Okay, and months passed, and I didn't become active. I didn't go to anything, like an idiot. And I only went to their business meetings just to check out what events might be coming up and maybe inspire me, or most likely, I'm thinking, I was trying to suss the people out, you know. I kind of do a research, and when I have projects or something, I try to do some research before I actually commit to it totally. And so I was trying to figure this group out. Is this SCA an okay group? Are they safe? Is it? So for a bunch of months, I spent just going to the business meeting, which was at Shakey's Pizza on the west side. It became, I think, Apollo's Pizza. And really, I didn't participate until I think October that year. Yeah, October, Halloween time, because I don't know if they still do it. They probably don't. But at the Lacey Mall there, different groups, not just the SCA, different groups would show up and just walk around and hang around. And it's, I don't really remember what we did. I mean, if we did any fighting or anything, but I got into one of the dresses I brought with me from Lebanon and walked around. I don't know if I gave out flyers about the SCA, but because it was like, that was officially kind of the first time I did anything. But I knew that once I got in guard, that was it. There was no point return. So 1986, Mayfair was my first event, really. And I went to like maybe 6 or so events that year. I went to World Expo that year. My first Kingdom event was July Coronation. I went to Yule Feast. So yeah, once I got in, that was it, you know, but it took a while,
Yeah.
like an idiot.
Did you have a name picked out right away?
Well, so this is cute. If Dagmar is watching, she could see. For my vigil, she came up with a sheet of trivia questions or trivia info about me to keep people busy while they're waiting to talk to me. And I think the first question was, what persona did Geron think of choosing before she chose being Armenian? And the answer is Scottish. And I was going to have a different name with that, but that like lasted about 4 seconds, maybe. Well, not quite 5 seconds, but what I was, well, I was still an Armenian, but I 13th century Armenian from Cilicia, which is a minor medieval kingdom, Armenian kingdom. After the noble families escaped because of the conquerors from Greater Armenia, they created a minor kingdom in part of what is now Turkey. And in 13th century, by then, we sort of adopted the French names, French titles, because the noble families had close ties with the Crusaders. And the coats of arms were adopted to the European kinds. They started to wear more Byzantine. So, I even like my name was Geron de Ayas. It's a town in Turkey now. And I had different coat of arms. But I decided, well, like 5 years into the SCA, as I was getting better with the research, I decided, okay, what is the point of being an Armenian? Because one of the reasons of being Armenian, what I kind of need to step back a little is, back in Lebanon, I didn't go to Armenian schools. And when I came to America, I was 12 years old, and in Washington State, there was no Armenian schools. So the SCA provided a chance for me to learn about Armenian history and culture. And my second purpose, as I learn, is to teach others about the Armenians, because they don't teach them in regular school as history classes, really. So I was thinking, well, what's the point of being Armenian if I look like a Byzantine person? You know, so that is when I decided I'm going to go earlier to 11th century, change my name, change my coat of arms, change, things to go accordingly, to change my garb to go with my persona. So I've always been Armenian, but it was like a French kind of name. And so that's the long version of the question you just asked me. Sorry. Shaksi. Cool. Hey, where you at?
Sorry, I got booted off. My computer shut down. I can't believe that that it kept going.
Oh, it did?
The streaming didn't stop, which is
Oh, okay.
really,
Oh,
we're
good. I
still
didn't
live.
curse or anything. I'm glad I didn't use 4-letter words or anything.
Yeah, no, at least I think it's still live. Let's,
We'll
yeah,
find
here
out.
we go.
Okay.
Okay, yes. So,
Hey, where you at? Sorry, I got booted off.
that was really weird. I don't know how the meeting kept going without me, but it did.
I know, because I finished my answer and I'm going, okay, she's not responding. What happened? So I decided, okay, I'm going to look and see if she sent out like text.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. Zoom just kept right chugging along, so I'm glad that you got to finish that story. I missed part of it, but everybody else got it. So
okay, that's what counts, girl.
Mistress Morgana missed the introduction of when I introduced you and tried to pronounce your name correctly, and would really like to know how to pronounce your name correctly. So could you do that really quickly for her?
Sure. So the Armenian way, just like in my main name, when people ask me my name, I give them the American version, like Aline. It's actually Aline, but yay, it's Gorandookht, a daughter of Goran, Mamigonian. Gorandookht Mamigonian. So like go, Ron, as in the name Ron, and then Ducht with a like a Klingon, Gorandookht. Like you're spitting it out or something. But since I'm in Ontario here in this interview, Garon is fine. That's how you guys know me.
And Carolyn says, if that happens again, if I disappear again, you should just start singing. So anyway, I'm sorry, I totally let that sideline me. I think I might invite my sister on just to back up.
Okay. What did you miss from my answer? Is there, well, you'll catch info, I guess.
Anyway, so I heard you talking about you were dressing as Byzantine, and then it didn't really fit with having an Armenian name, and so you started to do Armenian costuming.
Yeah, because it was still Armenian, but in that area and that period, the Armenians wore Byzantine style. And they had started, because of their close ties with the Crusaders, took on the titles, the French titles, instead of the Armenian ones. And their coat of arms, they adopted the Western European ones and all that. So since my purpose is to not only learn about Armenians, my history, but also to let people know about the Armenians. Well, if someone sees me dressed as Byzantine, it's a Byzantine person, right? So if I wear something like this, hey, what's that? And people have asked, hey, what's that? What does that say on there? You know, and that way it gives me the opportunity to say it's Armenian, and here it is, background behind that.
And it leads to a whole discussion and an opportunity for you to educate.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. Super cool. Do you want to go into pictures now, or
yeah, sure. It's your show, girl.
Okay. So let's
I should put my I'm gonna put my glasses so I can see better on the pictures.
Okay.
To identify.
Okay. That's not it. See, I have this all queued up, and it's not queued up anymore. So I've got to find the right spot. So hold on just a minute. I apologize for the weird technical difficulties we're having tonight.
I'm gonna sing.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, good, it worked.
Oh, now it says my screen sharing is paused. Oh. Can you see that now?
No, I see nothing but a blank thingy. I see something behind, like you have two. Do you have tab?
Okay, I'm gonna try it again.
Okay. Okay, there we are. So that's my first, probably where I'm figuring out, that's my first picture in SCA of an SCA event. So it's the oldest, well, it's not the first picture, yeah, and it's the oldest picture, because this was at July coronation 1986, and it was during the second reign of Thorin and Anharid, and this was court, their court. And there's I picked pictures that have stories. So the story on this is, obviously I hardly knew anybody there, but I knew some, like Sir Richard. But prior, not this court, but the last court of Arthur and Melissa, I'm 86. This is like I'm totally brand new, and the thing that totally stood out for me in that court was, and it kind of gave me an idea of what things are valued in the SCA. And what they did was they call somebody over. It was the lady, and it actually turned out to be dead. And then I believe it probably was Dak who announced to the populace that she was leaving the kingdom, and then he began to praise her, and there was, and I just thought that how nice it was that this organization valued its people so much they would publicly show how much they cherish them. So that stuck with me for quite a while. And actually, this kind of is a full circle thing, like 30 something years later, at my last elf night in Ontario before moving down here in CAID, they called me over to court, and I totally missed it if it wasn't for a private message me saying, hey, your name's called, because there's no reason for me to think that I would have any business with court. And And there's Thorin. He was escorted me up just like he did at my laurel ceremony. And I remember the herald asking people who consider themselves my family or friends to come more forward. And there were these groups of friends of mine up on the dais, and they each had either made or collected things from Ontier for me to bring back to CAID. And I'm like a total emotional mess. But the one thing that really stood out was the look on the king's face. And when he held out the scroll that Inga had made, and what it said in the scroll basically is that I was Ontier's emissary to CAID. And he said to me, show this to their majesties of CAID. And so, I sort of thought it was just court shtick, and I didn't really become active in CAID for a while because I was still grieving over my dad. But when I finally did start going, and the time came for me to swear fealty, I did that research thing before making a commitment. So I had asked my friends who were royal peers mostly, hey, who am I supposed to swear fealty to here? Because the scroll says this, and I'm living here. Half of them said CAID, another half said Ontier. In the end, I just decided I was going to swear fealty to CAID, but I did show them not the scroll because the event was an outdoor event. So I was going to lug it around, but I showed them a picture of the scrolls, and I said, Your Majesties, here's the story behind this. So they were very understanding. They knew my heart's always up in Ontier. So, but it was like I realized when I realized what was going on was, oh my God, this is the thing that happened to Dad and that has stuck with me ever since I was a new person, and it's happening to me. So yeah, that was just these things that happen, that just pluck in your memory that I just kind of stand out. Yeah, so this, I guess, is the second oldest SCA picture of me, because this was in October. The SCA did participate in the World Exposition in Vancouver, Canada, and it was happening in the weekend of my birthday. And I saw that as an omen that, I know I'm brand new. This is a big deal. The world is coming to Canada here, and I'm going to do this because it's on my birthday weekend. And so the way they set it up is they had that big tent like that, you see, and that in the middle of it, it's surrounded by these booths with displays. And in the middle of it was what they call the village square. And it was just a stage for entertainment. So the first day I did entertainment, sang. And then the second day I stamped people's passports. People went from pavilion to pavilion, got their, visitors pass stamps on their passports. And then the other venue was at the Horse Arena. They did a demo of dancing, country dancing, but they also had this sort of makeshift castle, and they did this siege, castle siege scenario thing, including catapults with the stuffed cows, a la, Monty Python. But yeah, and I think one of the most special moments, really surrealist moments, is to sit up in the bleachers watching them throw a cow over a castle. And in the meantime, the sunset was sort of going down, and right next to our stuff was the Ramses Pavilion, and it was shaped like a pyramid. So it was almost, you can almost try, if you squint, you can kind of imagine that the sun was setting over the Nile, and over here is a Monty Python scenario with medieval people are dressed doing country dances and throwing cows over a castle.
Very SCA of us. That's
yeah. And this is my first arts project. This is the kneeling pillow that they're still using. I'm amazed in Inglemer. And I probably at that July coronation is when I got the idea, because I saw people, they had different pillows for people to kneel at court. And I learned that the Shire didn't have one. And well, it's because, Shires don't have courts, but once in a while, if Duke Thorne was coming or Council we will sort of wrangle them to do a court for us. So I embroidered this thing. It's the coat of arms of the Shire, now Barony, and the red deer over there. That's now it's called the Red Heart, but it's the Arts Award, and the white teardrop things are it's the crystals for service award. And that was my like it's this big thing, my first major arts and art project. So I thought I'd include that.
So you came into the SCA knowing embroidery, knowing.
Well, yeah, but it was all wrong, really. I'm like I used like all 6 plies of the DMC, I think on this one I might have used 3, but I've improved definitely over the years. And at the end, on the other side of this pillow, I embroidered Gorandookht, so unless they're watching, the current members of the Barony won't know who the hell Gorandookht is, but that was who I was.
I think it's really cool to sign your work like that.
It's a legacy thing, It's
one of the sets of banners I signed. I haven't signed anything else, but I did sign one of the sets of banners I made. And if I were to make more, I would sign it because I think that
if you can, if you're able to, because it's what we're doing is history, right? We're, so, and especially if we're doing regalia and stuff, that's adding to the history. Oh, this is Mayfair court, and I'm presenting the pillow at there. This was Mayfair in the beginning was held at this gorgeous place, the Boy Scout camp in the Summit Lake, and they had these dogwood trees that would bloom during Mayfair, and these pink petals would fall down, all these people in costumes and armor, and it was like a scene from Excalibur for me. It was just so it added to the magic for me, but we definitely outgrew that place, but it's this gorgeous place. And one time I woke up, probably from the first time I actually camped there, like either 86 or 87, I woke up and I walked over to where the biffies were, the regular restrooms were, and I'm going over the hill and the mist is going, and there's these group of deer sort of sauntering around. Oh, magic. Only me being in the SCA gives me the opportunity to see something like this.
So cool.
Yeah. So that's the picture that I saw in the article. That is the article from the newspaper that blew my mind. I thought, oh my God, Olympia has an SCA branch. I don't have to go all the way to Seattle. So this was it. It was always in my head. And I kept the article. That picture has always been in my head. There it is. And if you notice, I circled this information I needed. And that's the actual article. So that even before I met the SCA people, they were going to be the right thing for me.
It was going to happen.
Yeah, and the article is part of the, for a time I was shadowing for the Shire and I think the Barony as well. I did like a 3-ring binder full of articles, local as well as even all the way to Smithsonian article about the SCA. Just as they do demos, I had like a book of photo albums, but also I had that folder with pictures and articles and stuff. This is my first class that I taught, and it was on Byzantine costumes. I don't remember where, and I don't know if it was. I started to take Ithra classes very new. It's one of the advice that I give to people is take as much classes as you can, just to give you an idea of what's really going to interest you, what you're going to focus on. And actually, since Ludwika used to be your Laurel, she was one of the early ones. I remember taking the couch color, different color embroidery, couch gold couch thing. That stuck in my head. I think I'm going to do some of that.
She definitely.
Eduardo, I remember taking Eduardo's secret embroidery at an Ithra.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ludviga's voice is the voice I hear in my head every time I do handwork. She's who keeps me to my small stitches.
Yeah. And I think that's probably, I can't, I probably took Eduardo, because I think Eduardo's was the first class that I ever took, really. But, but it was, but I remember around there is when I started to go, oh, so this medieval embroidery thing means you have to be small. You have to use smaller ply threads, thinner ply threads, but you got to be small with the stitches. Okay. So I belong to Sir Richard's household, House Arkeep, and he every Yule he would give us Yule gifts, and one year he gave us he commissioned Black Fox, who did this. This was his style. He would sort of metamorphosize. Is that the right word? Metamorphosize the animals, and so this is the members of the household at the time, and I'm the one at the top with the white furry hat and the red tail. I'm a cat. I think I'm a cat. Yeah, and that's the furry hat. I kind of included that this show. Yeah, that's me. And so this was Council of Crowns. Where we were very new, a new barony. Sir Richard and his lady Gwendolyn, the founding Baron and Baroness of Glamere, and Glamere hosted this event where crowns from all the known world came and had a council, and I think it was Mason County Fairgrounds, I think. So this was, and this isn't everybody even. This was at the Grand Court, and this is just one section of them. There were more crowns there, but the story for this one was I think it was Friday night. They had a kind of come and like a meet and greet for the crowns, and sort of like a gathering, and Leaf and Alessandra provided some of the music, and Alessandra had the hammer dulcimer, and we kind of did improv where she played something and I kind of sang something to go with it.
Wow.
And the king of, is it Anstioria? Is that the Texas one? Anstioria. He came over and he sang with us, and he was super. I mean, the Sardic king. And that I've never forgotten.
How
That
cool.
was, yeah.
Cool. So it looks like the Crown of the West here, and then Darius and
Yeah.
and Tessella is the herald.
And and people from is the East there, because the East Kingdom people were there, and like I said, yeah, Osteo. Those shields that you see, those Eric shields, the people from Glamere did those forever. Wow. They were part of the things that decorated the Eric.
Beautiful.
And they did the same thing with like banners of baronies.
Huge amount of work.
Yeah, it was great. I love the group projects. That's Countess Adara, an Ontario 12th night. She liked my headdress, and she made one for herself. So for that event, for twinsies. And you see that collar I'm wearing? That's embroidered metallic thread. That was like what I was known for the first 5 years in the SCA, because at every event I would come and work on it. And it was just cotton patterned fabric, printed, that I just embroidered over. And so it looks like it's complicated, but it's not really. But that's what I was known for. And I think the first arts contest that I won was at Canterbury Fair. They had an on-site favor contest or something. And I had a piece of the fabric, and I started to do this gold metallic thread embroidery stuff on it, and I won.
That's amazing.
Yeah. This is at an SCA person's wedding, but it wasn't just SCA people who were there. It was kind of a combination SCA, mundane, and the belly dance community. And I am, because in my culture in the Middle East, having someone, a belly dancer in your wedding is good luck. So this is me, and my dance partner there is the second Baroness of Glamour Sansia. Oh, we're doing dancey stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if this was during Ludwiga's reign or Laos, but for a time, they introduced, Antir was playing Mongolian football. And right there is our founding Baroness playing football. She's got her, you see the blue dress with the Rayanese? That's the part of the arms of the
Okay.
yeah, that one. That's the Baroness hiking up her dress and showing off her black and yellow, probably striped socks, because that's the Bavarian troops colors. And it became inspired a Looking Glass cover. Yeah, there's a group of people playing Mongolian football, and it wasn't just us. All sorts of branches were doing that.
Those kind of SCA trends that go through are really fascinating.
And it kept going. Actually, I have a picture of them doing it again at Mayfair, because I think that was at Mayfair. And it was, I don't know if Baroness Ronwin was the Baroness at the time, but Ronwin was out there participating in it as well. So it's at least with Glamour, it stuck a little bit for a few years. So this is, again, Mayfair. I think this is Thurston County Fairgrounds. And it was super rainy. And these are the men of Glamour, including Duke Thorne right there in the middle, who was the champion of Glamour, standing against all who would come. I think I can name some of the one over here on the right with the stars. That would be Squire Stergard, the smiling of Wessex, who was the Squire of Richard. Next to him, it's Valerian. Yeah, Valerian the Innocent. Oh, I don't recognize that one. Is Walter. There's Thorne, there's Richard next to him. And I think yellow and red is Tristan, maybe. But yeah, it was really raining, and they were so valiant that day. In fact, Stergard was while he was meeting his opponent, he would, because he was a bard, he was a poet, and he would recite this, and he worked on Saxon style poetry. So he would do this while he's fighting, he would like recite this poetry. So that stood out in my head from that event.
What a great way to keep the rhythm of your fight, though.
Yeah, it was very heroic. I think I had, that was the one where another Squire of Richard, Connor McGuire, was fighting for me that day. And when he would lose, he would come and say, I'm sorry. I was like, dude, don't get hurt. You're having fun and you're a good, that's all that matters. But they were so heroic that day. Yeah, this was at Sargent's at Evergreen State College, my alma mater. And there's Baroness Gwendolyn back there in the blue, and Baroness Sansia. And I don't know if it was Sansia's sewing project. It's one of Duke Thorne was very obliging enough to be the model to get the fitting of this apron or whatever it is. But
he looks like he's not enjoying this at all.
He was so, he's so obliging about it. So nice. It's like, yeah, I'm the champion. I guess I have to do this.
That is his I'm really having a good time face.
Yeah.
Super sweet. I love that picture.
This is at probably again Mayfair, and My, my the lady in the straw hat is my friend Sylvia, and she was the apprentice of Dagmare, and we lost her last year, early in the year, and it was our thing to work gate together because it just made things so much more fun. You know, if you're gonna work gate, do volunteer for hours. So this is one of my favorite pictures. This is my apprentice ceremony. So before, when I finally decided, okay, the Laurel thing wasn't a front burner project for me. This was a, one of these days, okay, great. My front burner project was to learn new skills and improve the ones that I already know. And I came to a point, when I guess it's a mental thing that kind of shifts that happens, and it says I'm going to need someone who's a guide or a coach. And so again, I asked friends of mine who were Laurels and their students or apprentice, and ask them questions. What's this about? What's it like? What do they expect from you? What do you expect from them? Just trying to do that, my research before I make that commitment.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
wise.
Hmm?
Very wise.
Yeah. And so, yeah, some of them thought that I was actually fishing for a Laurel to take care of me, but I wasn't. I was just doing the research first, just see, trying to get, because I didn't know what it was about really. Because what's this whole apprentice Laurel relationship like? So, um, eventually, it was suggested that Lilia Fedorovna would be a good match, and I met her at 30 year. We discussed it, and we decided for a year we would do the unofficial student thing to see if it was going to work, if the personality thing was going to work, or the teaching style, whatever. And after the year, we did the official apprentice thing. So this was at an arts and sciences event in America in probably in the 90s, sometime late 90s. And that's my apprentice test that I eventually wrote for my Laurel, which is here we are before my, no, this is after my Laurel ceremony because I have my wreath on. And there she is. She was there and I didn't expect her. See, what happened was, so I don't really remember how long we stayed official. And then she decided to go to a different path to seek more in the mundane storytelling community. And so we had a public unapprenticing ceremony just to let people know that, we're cutting off not because of any animosity or anything, that's a mutual, friendly situation. And so I had talked to her, and her husband was going to come to my ceremony, but she said she wasn't going to be able to make it. And then it was just, here she is. And had I known, I would have had her be one of my speakers.
Right.
But that's us afterwards, after it happened. And I'm wearing like and I'm wearing the dress, the apprentice dress that I wore when I became her apprentice.
That's a wonderful full circle thing.
Yeah.
So how long between these two pictures?
Let's see. So the Laurel thing happened in 2003, 12th night 2003. The apprentice thing. Okay, so I met her 30 year. 30 year is when it was in the 90s. 30 year was around the 90s, right?
95-ish, 96.
Yeah. So I would say 96, 97 is when I was her apprentice. Maybe we went for like a couple of years, maybe. And then later, Mariam al-Baghdadi approached me at another 12th night. And we did that whole 1 year student thing. unofficial thing. And then the 12th night that I became Laurel was actually the event where we were going to be official. I was going to be her apprentice officially, but something else happened instead. Which, you know, this is a group of okay, I'll say this. Everclear as a shire and as a barony is a place full of puns. Even the name, Everclear, it's never clear and ever clear. That was the saying. The coat of arms, it's raining and it's sunny, you know. And like I said earlier, the fighting troop was called the Bevarians, and their fighting cry is "Bever, bever." The Bardic group, and this was before we became a barony there, actually. It was a group of people who like to do Bardic, and it wasn't just singing, it was storytelling, plays, puppets, whatever. And they were called the Hummingbards. So these are the various people who've been Bardic champions of the Hummingbards. So I'm going to name them. Okay. Next to me, obviously, is Dagmar. She was the big bard. The head administrator of the group was called the Big Bard. And they get a feather boa, a yellow feather boa. And the tall guy behind me is Kian. The guy that I was dancing with Sansia at the wedding, that was his wedding, Rafen, right there next to me on my right. Rafen, he was famous for his juggling. He was amazing. Not juggling, acrobatics. Wow. Next to him was Starfire, and the person kneeling down is Bronwyn, who became Baroness later, who was an amazing singer as well. And what we would do is quite often when there's a lull in court or at feast, the Baroness or somebody will ask us to do something, you know, to sing something. And we'd always do this sort of, we'd look at each other and saying, what are we going to do? And we'd always go to the song, the Fisherman's Song, which is, I know I learned from Dagmar. So, yeah, at the 25th birthday of the barony of Glamare, which was the last event I actually physically went to anywhere. Ronwyn was there and we sang that song together, and I was like, in the middle of it, I started to look at her and I realized what was going on, and I was just starting to get emotional. But that's our go-to song. The Hummingbird Champions' go-to song is the Fisherman's Song. And I sang it once with old friend Patrick. What's his name? Fiak. At a 12th night.
So I find it really interesting that there is a whole generation, or maybe two, of SDA players that have no idea that Duchess Dagmar sings.
Yeah.
So you're outing her right now.
Yep. And I watched, I think it was yesterday's interview she had with the Growing Under Pressure, right?
Uh-huh.
And she had mentioned how when she went down to the west to Sinagua, she was talking about her becoming a Laurel, and that those of us who know her up here were thinking it was because of Bardic, and it was for something totally different, which was also deserved because she introduced that to that kingdom, I think. So,
yeah, for sure.
But she taught me most of these Irish songs that I know, you know, it's from her mostly. She went to Evergreen too. She collected earth before, you know, one of those items that they gave me at that last 12th night to take back to CAID. She collected in these little glass bottles. She collected the 4 elements from on here. So there's like earth, and there were like shells and rocks and all sorts of things. And the 2 of those bottles and water broke. They didn't survive the CAID transportation, but I still have it. It's right there with my other stuff here, decorating my room. This is the apprentice ceremony for my apprentice. That's Jamasina. He's in Glamare. So somebody had, and I hope if there's any more, I would love to get these pictures. But and Celia might have to actually taken this picture, but I just recently found this on my Facebook. Oh wow, we're like, yeah, we're switching around.
Sorry,
This is
Laureling pictures now.
yeah, this is before the ceremony itself while we're waiting. So it's like, okay, so I think they were while we were just, oh man, where do I even begin? So they were going to offer it to me at Autumnmore, which is an event I normally don't go to, but I was gonna go to because I was on writing it, baronial writing it, but family stuff happened and I couldn't make it. So what happened was they offered it for me at a non-SCA event that Mistress Yearly had hosted, where Laurels and like-minded people would come and work on projects, and we just geek out. And in the November one, extra people were there, including Thorn, and the Queen was there, and she put on her crown, and suddenly we're being SCA and we're having court, and that's where they offered it to me. So in the meeting, we had to discuss this. We're trying to come up with 2 months. 12th night was going to be the day we were going to do it. So I had 2 months to come up with an Armenian ceremony, thinking that I had years to come up with an Armenian ceremony. So I used the regular SC ceremony and put in Armenian elements in it. And with the pictures, I can discuss some of them. But this was the magic umbrella. I was part of the Ontir Nomads. Remember those guys? I don't know if you guys still doing it. And there's Atthias. He was the holder of the magic umbrella, following around. And this was before, while court is going on, we're discussing the logistics of, how we're going to do it, where we're going to do it, and all that. So this picture is from, and he had, after it was done, how when the court is finished, well, not court, but the ceremony is out, you go off and you do congratulations, and we're going off at the end of it, and he's standing there while he's still standing there with the umbrella, and because court was still going on and he had to be part of it, I guess. So I remember him handing over the magic umbrella to his squire to continue the responsibility of holding that umbrella, following me around when the ceremony was done, because there were so many laurels there. And you know how when you are done, you go through the middle, But Mariam had grabbed me and we went by the side aisles. So he was supposed to follow me. But because we're on the side aisles, which are narrower, that never happened. And I always felt so bad that he didn't get to totally, fulfill the full duty of the magic umbrella holder. But bless his heart, he was dedicated.
I think I have that umbrella still. I think that was it my umbrella?
Well, it had all these dangly things with it. I mean, I've seen it in other laurel ceremonies of the members of the Ontir Nomads. I've seen it in other, and I think even coronation stuff. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's. I have that umbrella. I don't know if it's the same one, but
yeah, it had like dangling tassel things and all sorts of.
They're silver kind of hearts with bells on them, right?
Yeah. I seem to remember something like that. So yeah, this is the procession. There's Mistress Fureleaf holding my banner that she worked on, and she dyed that yellow iron. I don't know if she dyed the red, but she dyed that yellow. And when they offered me the laurel, my mom, who lives still in Lebanon, was visiting. So my whole family was able to participate in the ceremony. But right there in the wheelchair is my dad. Behind him is my sister. And the one in the crusader type thing is Sir Richard. Next to him is Mariam holding a piece of earth from Armenia. Sorry. It's a box with earth from Armenia representing my ancestors. And I'm like already was about to lose it when I was, as we're processing, Dagmar, my friend, was singing in Armenian, the same procession song I sang for you. Actually, it's like a go-to song. I've been asked to sing for people's processions before. I did for like Tazia, and I might have done it for the Baroness here in Angels. I did it for you, of course. So it's the procession song for the head of the Armenian church, the head guy, not Pope, because the Armenian church is apostolical and not Catholic, but it's the head guy, and he gets a procession song. And what I would just do is I would switch the names to make it more personalize it. And yeah, although nobody would notice, although at the time my family was there, they'd notice. Nobody, but for me, if I'm going to sing, like for you is, let's see, I'm going to sing. The regular song goes, Amen, Stiras sein was fats, Yergar Gangtur Yergarur. Anyway, yours was Amen Antir. Yergar Gangtur Merashaksin. Yergarur. Yegar young to give long life, and Yegar Orer give long days. May so and so have. So it wouldn't make a difference how I would sing it for most people because they wouldn't understand what I'm singing. But it just for me, I had to personalize it.
Thank you.
And for a shot for Tazia, I had sung at some event, and he said, "Please sing a coronation for me." I said, "Yeah, sure." And what happened there was when they introduced Tazia, there was such a roar of people's reaction, and because we're processing, I said, "Well, I better start singing. I mean, I can't hear, but I better start singing." When things finally quieted down, I realized I'm singing it too high. I'm like stretching the notes, and I was so disappointed. I was hoping that it didn't sound so bad because it wasn't the same voice that he had heard at that other event, and he had all these important people, not just legends of our chair, but like I think Paul Bellatrix was there. I mean, so it was this. I wanted it to be the sound that he had heard and that he wanted to have in this ceremony, and it was like, oh shit, it's too high. I'm stretching. Oh, I have no idea how it went, but yeah, it's it's um it's still the song I go to when people ask me because it's the first session song anyway.
That's
So this
beautiful.
was after while court was still going on, as you know, and Ontario court's on forever. We decided we were going to go have dinner, and this was shortly after we sat down. There is Amanda Kendall. She comes over, and I believe Baroness Gwendolyn took this picture, and I'm so grateful that she caught this moment. She came over and she held my hand and she said, "You inspire me," and I'm like, oh, stop. And I remember saying to her, "I inspire you." So it's like, are you kidding me? In fact, a full circle moment this is because I remember while I was still new, uh, I think court was going on and she was standing there and she was working needlepoint on a little shield, a coat of arms. And I thought, oh, that's a good idea. That's something I can do. And um, that might have been actually my first project, but it was a personal project I made. I did my coat of arms and I needlepointed it and gave it to my mom as a Christmas present. And and it was all because I just happened to watch her and go, oh wow, yeah, sure. And there she is, like
Goran,
blowing my mind, telling me I inspire her. It's like, are you kidding me? You know?
I'm going to interrupt for just a second. Your mic level after you sang, I think it adjusted for the louder singing, and now your voice is really soft.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to get closer?
Maybe that would help. Yeah,
Okay.
that's better.
Okay. Testing.
I think that's better.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so sorry about that. That's such a wonderful full circle moment. And for those of you who don't know, Amanda Kendall has passed. So
Yeah.
this is a
And
treasure.
over there's Terry, there's Celia, who also passed last year. My friend, she was there. She was like my lady in waiting for that event. There's my mom. All my family wore my clothes, so it's really weird seeing them. But she participated in the ceremony, actually. Part of the so one element was the Armenian song. Another element was um, uh, I had the scroll read, only it didn't exist. The scroll physically did not exist until I actually physically got it at that 25th anniversary of the barony a few years ago. But I knew that I wanted it to be, have Armenian, the text, and then have the English translation. So that's why probably it took forever to find an artist to willing to take that. But she read the Armenian text of it, and it was in classical Armenian, which is the language that priests, clerics, scholars could understand and read. I'm trying to learn. One of the things that Zoom has brought to me is classical Armenian classes, which is very hard for someone who doesn't know how to even read and write Armenian, but I'm determined. So yeah, so there's Richard again, and there's I don't know if he spoke, but there's Master William. He was merchanting, and I had to keep him up to date to when the ceremony was going to do, so that he could to come over. So he must have spoken, but I don't remember. And there's Mistress Elizabeth Mead, who I took many bardic type classes, and I learned how to do documentation. My strongest thing is documentation, and I learned how to do that from her. And the one in the Baldric, I believe he's from Blathanor. I can't remember his name.
It's oh, I know his name, and it just went out of my head.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Rutherford? Is that right? Master Rutherford?
That sounds
Dagmar
okay.
would like me to ask you about greasing up and getting inside the king's tunic.
Greasing up? Who asked this?
Dagmar.
Oh, you girl. Okay. So yeah, like I said, I had 2 months to come up with an Armenian ceremony, and so I hadn't done enough research. But when I'd come across in my research that I was trying to, oh girl, I'm gonna get you. I came up with my research that I was looking at being entering the order of the Laurel is as it like the order I'm being adopted, right? So I used a Crusader adoption ceremony, an Armenian, because what they, like I said, there were close ties with the Armenian nobility, and a lot of them on their way to Jerusalem, they would get arms and supplies and all sorts of stuff like that. But a lot of them, I think, decided, why should I go fight and die maybe in Jerusalem when I can marry a princess and have my own estates, So one of these guys, he was a dirty, rotten person even. He, how does she remember this? He rubbed his chest with oil, and the thing was that he and the prince, the prospective father, would share this giant chemise shirt and rub their chests against each other. Now, I seem to remember that it also said that the thing was repeated with the prospective mother, but knowing Armenian culture, I really doubt an Armenian princess oiled up her chest and rubbed against a French guy, like that. But I said, okay, well, so I did entertain doing that because I thought, well, hey, it's Armenian, and you know, the oral ceremony was more like it wasn't my ceremony; it was more like an introduction to the Armenian culture to people. So I entertained it for like a second, but what I ended up doing was my mom provided the earth from Armenia, and she provided the holy oil from Ichmiazin. Ichmiazin is the seat of all of the churches. It's in Armenia, and she has made several trips to Armenia. So I had a little bottle with that oil, and when the ceremony happened, the king. He was just supposed to put it on my forehead, but he actually did the cross thing on my forehead, and so that was my homage to the rubbing chest thing. But in so doing, I just consider myself being adopted to the Laurels order. That's what I did.
Yeah,
and I
the fact that you did not rub your chest with oil made her question your commitment to the Order of the Laurel.
Yeah, well, we'll have to discuss this in another time. I was entertaining it actually because I thought, well, that's such a strange and interesting ceremony, and my commitment to actually to introducing Armenian culture to the SCA is so deep, as people know, that it was just such an unusual thing. I thought, yeah, but then remember, I got my dad there, I got my mom there, I got my sister there who wouldn't get it, I think, and I don't want to freak out the SCA people either, you know. So okay, we made a compromise.
I'll pull the pictures back up. Oh, that's good. Great.
Yeah, that's their scroll. That's the Laurel scroll. She changed her name, but Margaret Fay did it, and somebody else. I don't remember. I should have looked at the back of it. I'm sure the info will come in, but yeah, there. Half of it is, if we can do the close up. That's a 11. It's based on an 11th century Armenian illumination, and I can't tell what side is Armenian and what side is English. And I think she might have used the 11th century text, Armenian text style. You know, the
Right, so
letter.
This is the Armenian side.
Yeah. Yeah. And this, yeah. So I'm very chuffed by it when I finally got it. I didn't really expect it to physically get it then, but it was a special surprise.
Beautiful, and it's got the pomegranates and the peacocks are part of your.
Yeah. Oh, what I should have included was AOA scroll. I posted all the time anyway, but Dame Zenobia, who used to be in CAID and moved up to Honduras, you know, we were pen pals while she was still in CAID. And I think before either of us became Laurels. And yeah, but she did my AOA scroll in the 13th century Armenian style of illumination. And she hid camels in it because it's an inside joke. But she hid one of them very cleverly in the scroll. And it has my old coat of arms on that one. This is something. So I swore not, when I swore fealty, or I didn't do it to sword, or I used this Armenian cross because that's what my persona would do. And what happened about a week or 2 weeks prior to the ceremony, an Armenian master repoussé artist, like a real one, right, did a workshop, and a group of us, including, Master William was there, and Fiorleaf was there, a group of us were there, and at the end of the he was working on this the whole time, and at the end of it, he just gave it to me as a gift, and wow. I knew right there, I know what I'm going to do with this. And in Armenian, like in the Armenian Mass, when there is an ornamented cross that is held by the priest, and when a sacred object like that is held, it's usually held with a very, precious embroidered kind of handkerchief. And for the ceremony, I had them use a piece of cloth that was embroidered by one of my grandmothers, not only because of to get them to be represented, but also because as you see, we didn't frame this piece. Those edges are raw, so it was more for protection. And when I was processing in, I was holding in my hands as a handkerchief another embroidered piece by my dad's mom. So they were both represented. But this was like such a surprise when it's like, here, this is for you. And I'm going, holy cow. And there's processing. There's Duke Thorin, and I was so nervous. I don't know if I was holding his hand very hard, but I know that I was psychologically relying on it. And I was thinking in my head, okay, that morning for breakfast, we had a meeting of how things were going to go. And it's mostly for my family's sake. So I'm using the salt and the pepper. There's a picture of that actually, saying, this is the king, this is the queen, you go this way, and then you do this, and then you go back. So I was giving myself the clue of, okay, when you get to the edge where the laurels are, start, acknowledging them, bow to them, because it's part of the a way of showing respect to this order that I'm going to be belong to. So I'm like walking around over, wait, we just started and already they're here, So I had to start doing the whole, I mean, it was just like 10 steps and already it's like, oh,
many
already, because you're thinking you're making this plan, and it's a way of staying focused and not think emotionally. And something just threw me off already. I was thinking, wait, this is against my plan. So I was like, I'm holding on to Thor and thinking, oh crap, don't fall, just do the thing and don't fall, just go. But I was fine until I heard Dagmar sing, and I thought, oh, there's my friend singing in my language, and I was about to just lose it already. But it was very special. Yeah, so that year, since everybody believed in me, I decided I should believe in myself. And I thought, hey, because I think by now Ronwin was the Baroness. She's the one in the red bandana. And she had an all-female ballista troop to fight at Autumn War. And so I thought, well, this sounds like fun. So all of that is like borrowed gear. The surcoat, brown surcoaty thing is something I made. And I think the tabard with the arrow thing is, yeah. So yeah, those are our last defensive weaponry was the frying pans and the pork chops we had. And we were known as is it the Ballista Babes, the Glimmer Ballista Babes? Or, I don't know. And I became known as the Dark Dame. Nice. There I am with the ballista. And I earned my membership into the Bavarian fighting troop. There's the yellow and black striped favor. So proud. I never got to use it, the ballista. They kind of, well, we did a little bit, but yeah, and it was fun. And afterwards, we're talking all these stories and showing off our bruises. And I'm going, okay, now I get why the guys are so into this stuff.
Yeah, it's a definite bonding. Oops. It's a definite bonding.
It's just so adrenaline, it was just pumping. It's like, wow, that was fun. Let's do it again. So this is my favorite picture with Dagmar. I think it was September Crown by the look of that favor side token look. She's a good friend of mine. Sometimes she tests it with that reminding of my oil chest ceremony thing, but okay. But it's my favorite picture of her and me. This was when I was on retinue for when Dagmar and Thorin reigned. And I believe is Cedric, Baron Cedric of Aquaterra. And he always makes me laugh. And I wasn't for her retinue, my title wasn't lady in waiting. I think, advisor. But I'm someone who, when you're in retinue, you do work. So they needed a guard, and I actually did a little bit of gardening at court.
Fun.
But I like this picture with us because he's making me laugh. That was
Oh,
the greatest experience on Royal Retinue. That Bridget was like the head. We still keep in touch with some of the members of that group, of that retinue. It's just the coolest experience. Well, that's kind of self-explanatory. There's your laurel ceremony, and there I am singing that same song.
I was
I
just
remember it being hot. I remember that.
It was so hot, and I'm wearing a silk and wool layer and then a really thick wool skirt. And then I was just telling my apprentice that this hat, I guess I didn't felt it hard enough because it kept shrinking up. Like it should have been bigger. And as I was wearing it that day, it was so hot and I was so sweaty that it just
Right. Oh my God.
it's shrinking. So I actually ended up giving that to Tasia.
Oh, oh, okay.
Circle thing.
Wow. Oh, I see Countess Elizabeth there. Yeah, so there's my apprentice. The one in the brown is Jamesina. Next to her is again my friend Celia. And this was at 12th night, I think, at Ocean Shores. Might have been the last 12th night in Ontario that I went to. I'm not sure. And she was my student, but she became a little on her own. This is Shadra, and she was trying out for the Madrone ANS Championship here. And that's an awesome Persian hat that she made, as well as the other stuff. This is, it's not SCA, but again, SCA related in that the group that organized it were SCA people, but they were the belly dance community. And they were having a benefit concert thing for Safe House, for the abused women shelter. And so they asked me to perform. I'm singing here, and I also did a dance, and I also was like one of the extras in the back while somebody was dancing, or like a play, like a group of just sitting around and stuff. I'm sitting there fake embroidering and stuff, but this is me singing. And that veil, right? Is it the purple veil? Oh yeah, here we go, story time. Okay, so that veil, it's like this silk purple, sheer with gold medallion in there, threaded in. And the person who brought this with me from Lebanon, my Armenian teacher made that, and she made what we call tok, which is like the headpiece beaded. And she did a little velvet apron also beaded on it, and I still have those items with me. But that's what I used to do when I came here. I would, like, people would ask me to sing and dance, and I would wear that stuff. And I remember wearing not this, but the outfit with the veil and the apron and the little satin dress at the Armenian community up in Vancouver functions. So, but I still have it. I treasure it. Absolutely. I'm still wearing it here. And what I'm wearing is one of my early dresses that I made too. So okay, I went down to see Dagomir's step up as Princess of Sinagua, and I stayed there at Ob's place, and this is his motorcycle. And so I'm just posing. I didn't ride it or anything. I'm just posing with the thing. And I just put that in there. But
did you borrow?
Yeah, that was
well.
That was such an experience, and it was so good. We went down there sometime with Celia for the step down, and we went to this event, and they were like this orange tree and we're like amazed at it because up in the Northwest we get, we get them at Safeway or something. So I have a picture of that actually. He's using a pole or something and he's trying to get these oranges for us, which he did. I thought, this is so cool. Look, real oranges from a tree. Yeah, that was memorable. Oh, that's me dancing at that benefit concert, doing an Armenian dance that I choreographed. I guess I made up, but using Armenian dance motions. But yeah, that was a very satisfying event. This was before I became a Laurel. This was, they had what we call Freds as opposed to Eric's, the Arts and Sciences Forum display kind of thing. And I did some of that, but they also did one for arts. And in fact, there were so many clues inadvertently sometimes that were thrown at me prior to being a Laurel that totally went over me, which I'm so glad. But the organizer of this one has just let it slip. We're doing this for you because yeah, I sang locally. I would sometimes sing kingdom wide, yeah, but not as much. And I think they set it up so that they have a panel of people who, because at this event, there was a Laurel meeting. It was a kingdom event. So this was to give them an opportunity to hear me, I guess. And at that, I'm so glad I didn't get the clue because that day my voice was perfect. It was the right notes, the right words, even though it's in Armenian, so nobody would guess, but I would, and that would affect the way I sing anyway. And the articulations were smooth. It was just the best. And if I had known any hint that these people are going to be talking about me at this Laurel meeting, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But I think Amanda was in this here too. Yep. And
Amanda.
There's Mariam and Isolde. Yeah. Mariam is next to Isolde. And I think Ariel was there, but she's not in the picture.
And Artemis?
No, this was somebody else.
I can't see the head of the person.
Yeah, he has like blonde hair, this guy, if I remember. Yeah, and in my display thing, I had like, because I took this knitting stuff, the stranded knitting stuff at CAID, I think in 2000. And I just ran with it because it's this Middle Eastern art that's period. Yeah, we're gonna do this. And my first thing, which is acrylic yarn, it was big. It was just hodgepodgey stuff with knots in it, instead of weaving in the ends. And this Eduardo, this is one of the other that could have gotten me the clue that I'm actually a subject on their watch list because he was rushing through looking at my stuff before he was gonna leave, and I remember this because I was horrified. He's putting his hand and he's feeling inside this awful bag. No! This is just for display. It's not even for a, but yeah.
I can't believe you didn't start knitting until 2000.
Yeah, I did. I've knitted like mundane, like with the embroidery thing, but not, only straight with straight needles and just flat, and only like scarves and and I think only scarves really. I have never even done socks or hats or anything like that, and it was self-taught. I had one of the 1970s thing, little how-to knit thing. So this is one of my, this was an exchange trade thing. This lady did these amazing IBs with silver balls embedded in them, studs. And in exchange, I made her the bag, but I also made a small one for extra. And I had asked her, when someone expresses interest, I'll usually ask them what are the colors you like, or what are the motifs you like, or animals, or if they don't have coat of arms. She said yak, and I'm thinking, how the hell am I gonna knit yaks? So I started to look at the picture of a yak in an Encyclopedia Britannica, and then I tried to graph it, So, so eventually I came up with hopefully something that looks like a yak.
They're
So
fantastic. I totally knew it was a yak.
yeah, I don't know if I kept that graph. I wish I did. So this is, I made like two metal things. I took, it's so cool. And I think Dragon's Mist, they have these on the site. You can learn these things. Not this though. I learned how to make a Celtic roach. But this Master William, uh, he taught me this. This is the fibula, probably my first metal thing that I've made. I still have it. I wear it with my Roman. I had to make a lot of Roman, well, 3 Roman outfits moving down here in CAID.
Oh, yeah. The heat must be really hard to adjust to.
Yeah, especially linen. I had to make it tolerable.
Yeah.
This was a largesse. I made, once I started to know this stuff, I made a lot of largesses, and I also would make some for the kings and queens. I think this was for Skepti. Is it for Skepti or Skaggy? I can't.
I think that's that looks like Skepti's eagle and Ace's deer.
Okay, then that's theirs. That's their. So a lot, like, because if I'm gonna make all this largesse, I always thought I should make at least a couple of pouches for the king and queen too.
Nice.
And yeah, so this is the Skaggy and Tazia's, I believe.
The wolf and
Yeah. Raven. Yeah.
Wow.
This is so the one at the pouch at the bottom with the ram's heads, ram's horn thingies. I mean, that was the sample pouch for the class at Known World Arts and Sciences Symposium at the class that I took. So that's that one at the top. The 2 pouches, the one on the left with the lettering is in Armenian, and that's my name in Armenian. And the other one is pomegranates, obviously. And the middle thing there is an Armenian sock. That's the heel there, where the birds are shown, you know. Yeah, that's the heel.
Is there a significance to having the birds on the sole of the foot?
I don't know. I don't think, yeah, I thought it was unusual, but I don't think so. And they don't, you know, I was expecting them to be peacocks and stuff, but they're not. I think they're either run-of-the-mill birds or they're like, I don't know if they're crows, but peacocks, they wouldn't be peacocks because peacocks, at least in Armenian illumination, symbolize Christ. So I don't think they'd be on the sole of the heel thingy. And that's the front of the sock. Wow. And this was in piecework. Actually, this sock, I changed the colors, but the stocking and the article about it and the make your own stocking, Armenian style stocking thing was in Piecework magazine, and it was written by, oh man, what's her SCA name? Christiane, I think. Chris Lanning, who is the person who was teaching the class at KWAS.
Wow.
Yeah, she's the person about this stuff. And these are some of the pouches I made for myself using, actually this is like size 1, size 2 needles, not lace weight, probably DM stuff, yarn, and the motifs are based on fragments that they found in Egypt. Plus I added the laurel up there and some of the other stuff, but these are all like there are wool. The colored ones are wool found in medieval period, Mamluk period, and the cotton blue and white are stockings you would find. And then there are these mysterious tube objects, which I have pictures of that I made as well. But these are wool. These are some more that are based on the extant pieces. The one on the right is bigger yarn and needles, and the one in the middle is the same fragment, but smaller needles. You see how the size varied. And the tube, these are the tubal objects at the bottom. These are the ones that we don't know what they were. There's been different theories. Could be coin holders or ties, because you can see how small the one on the blue and white is in cotton. The different colored ones are in wool, but I just made them to experience the recreation of it, but I have no idea what to do with them.
Put them on display in your interview.
Yeah, and often when I teach class or on this or on when sometimes they have Laurel display, ANS display, and I sometimes do that. All of these, the colors I dyed myself. So,
Wow.
and they are the two pouches at the top are the full fragment design, the motifs. Because the previous ones, I just used some of the designs from the fragment. This is the entire one. And again, you can see I use bigger needles and yarn on the right. And then the same thing was done in size 50, 5/0 needles and lace weight yarn. So it's much smaller. Same thing with the purple in the middle. The one on the bottom, the pouch on all the way to the left is based on a 15th century Armenian carpet. And the ones with the pomegranates are eyeglass cases. And the one in the middle is very special. The pouch in the middle, it holds, if you see the motifs, they look like keys. It's because they hold the keys to the family house from Baghdad. And again, I dyed this. It's like my first project I did using yarn I dyed. There's those weird tubes again that we don't know what they did for. And it's the same thing. The bigger one was bigger yarn and needle, and the smaller tube is the lace weight yarn and the 5/0 size needle. And I did one of the early, probably actually the first class, and probably it's for a class even, that I took was card weaving. Oh gosh, wow. Anyway, and this is some of the things that I did with card weaving, because every time I learned that the Armenians did it, then that's when that would motivate me to learn how to do it. So the examples we have in Armenian are 19th century belts, card woven, but these are the various ones that I learned. That one at the one with the blue in the trim that's going horizontally, right? No, not that one, but under the blue one. Yeah, that one. That is a Norse thing, not that rectangular piece thing that goes over the apron dress, whatever they call it.
That's what I would call it.
Yeah. So I just put that in there because I had sewn card woven trim that I made for that as well.
I love that we're from Ontario, where everything is Norse. But
yeah. You know, the blue is actually holding my guitar, actually. Can you see it? So I still use it. So this is this was was prior to us going to 12th night, saying, she said, the goal is for you to finish this by 12th night, because it was supposed to be for our ceremony, but she was thinking she's going to be a Laurel at 12th night. She's she doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to tell her to get this done so that she'll wear this ceremony. But when I found out, I decided to wear the Armenian dress. Armenians did wear Ottoman style kaftans in later period, because that's what they wore. If they were in the western part of Armenia, it was Ottoman. The eastern part would be Persian. And I have both. I've made Persian ones and I've made Ottoman ones.
Somebody asked if you were Western or Eastern Armenian.
Huh?
Somebody asked earlier if you were Eastern or Western Armenian.
Oh, I would say Western because I'm from Lebanon, and I maintain my persona to be an Armenian from the Levant. And this fabric, I actually, a year before we became like, hey, shall we do this or not, whatever. I actually had the fabric, and I had approached Mariam with her advice saying, should I make a Persian out of it because of the colors, or should I make it Turkish? And she's like, Turkish, of course. This is another metallic embroidery I made. It was for in Glamour around Valentine's Day. There's a Court of Love event they had, and one of the contests was Heart on a Sleeve contest, and I won that year with this, and it's actually based on the motif in an Armenian illumination, and it's a heart on the illumination. It's a medieval thing that looks like a heart. I don't know if it wasn't meant to represent a Valentine heart, I'm sure, but and that it looks like an apple, but I think that's supposed to be a pomegranate. It's like, why would I put an apple on there? Yeah, this is what, again, back to that ANS Fred thing. This is one of the things that I displayed. These are yarns that I had dyed. I don't know if this is the ones, because the way I would display them is by making the tassels out of them, but I don't know if I need tassels out of, if this shows tassels in there. But in known world ANS, that's how I displayed them, was making tassels from them. Okay, these are the Byzantine collars. The one at the bottom is that gold metallic thread, totally unperiod, inappropriate Byzantine collar that I worked on the first few years in the SCA that people knew about me. But the one at the top is the more appropriate one, and it's made out of, I don't know, can you close up it?
I can't.
Okay, so it's made out of, oh, too bad. I was gonna actually send you a picture of a close-up. It's made from pieces of embroidery that I've done, but also like from saris, but also pieces of like cabochon precious, semi-precious stones, and pieces, and it's too small now, but I was gifted various repoussé things from my friend Travis, Ivan Thrisis.
He's right.
That turquoise, no, the turquoise thing at the bottom, because in the middle right there is yeah, right above it is a pomegranate that I embroidered, but that turquoise thing in the bottom is one of his pieces, Scythian, yeah. And then there were like smaller plaque repoussé ones near there too that he had done.
Very cool.
So it's hot, and like lost earrings and all sorts of things. And I was inspired by Lau a long time ago when she was queen. She showed up with this gorgeous collar with just caked with beads, and I said, yeah, that's the proper way to do a Byzantine collar. I'd been collecting all these beads because there's beads in there, and pearls, and also lost earrings and all sorts of things for years to ultimately make this project. That's a close-up of the armband on my apprentice dress. And I found out in my research that the heir apparent, whether it's a female or male, wears these armbands embroidered and or stamped or woven. Tiraz, they call them Tiraz bands. It's a tradition Persian and Arabic, but also the Armenians adopted it. And it's basically, it's done in Arabic is what they normally, you would see it in museum examples. It would be like blessings upon, say the title of the person and whatever. And and ends with like the date. That's how we're able to date these fabrics. But I did this one in Armenian, the embroidery instead of Arabic. And this was from the CAID display. And that's me wearing that Ottoman dress at Estrella. It's the one and only time I've been at Estrella. It was fun, but sort of. And you can see one of the pouches that I knitted. I'm wearing there. And this is at the CAID encampment. Yeah. And the yarns that I've dyed. And the piece of paper there are the pieces of those extant piece fragments that I talked about. And so some of those pouches that I later knitted with using these yarns are based on those motifs. And this is, I just turned my drum upside down and filled it with the yarn for this picture.
Keep it all in place.
It kind of homage to the Bardic as well. And the drum I'm talking about is actually back there in the background in this picture.
Oh yeah, right here.
Yeah, it has henna on it. This outfit is a traditional Armenian outfit from a certain region, and I am a volunteer at an Armenian museum here, and I made this outfit for the museum, and I tried it on to make sure it worked. But yeah, this is from that, and I was so proud of myself of finally figuring it out, because the problem with Armenian costume books is they have details from the stuff from the 18th century, because we actually have the actual costumes. They're the heirloom pieces, right? But medieval ones, a lot of times they'll just cover it up with a cape and say it's good. This is again 18th, 19th century, this outfit. But most of these Armenian costume books would like applique this front part, or they would do all sorts of things with it. But I kept looking at the photograph of these women from that period wearing these outfits. I kept looking and looking and looking for that thing, and I realized it's that dyed resist fabric that comes from India.
Tabori, or
yeah, I think something like that. Yeah, I figured that's what it was, and I was just so proud that I finally figured it out. So, but I took forever looking at those and close-ups and blowing them up, and it's like, that's not what that is. That's not what that is. It's yeah. There's me wearing that Byzantine thing again. This was at Ocean Shores. I can't tell you what I had to go through to take this picture. My friend, Mistress Elizabeth, we kind of decided, yeah, we're gonna go on the ocean in our outfits and take pictures. And I'm wearing these, I think I got them from Estrella, these leather period pointy up shoes. But we had to go through this area. It's all muddy to get to this place. So I'm like praying my shoes aren't ruined. But yeah, it was worth it. It was fun. And there's another bag that I knitted.
oh, sorry.
But it's okay. That's like the inside of their Ottoman coat. They would often put these sometimes elaborate embroidered little fragments on the inside corners of their coats that hardly anybody sees, unless like in Australia, you saw I brought it up and hitched it up on my belt, but so I wouldn't trip. But it was just something they do. Something people in the Middle East did do this a lot. They do these secret embroideries and things. So at the top is this armband that I'm wearing on this dress. Yep, same thing. Yep. And the pink is like one of the first things I dyed with madder. and the yellow embroidery on there is, no, on the pink. Yeah, that's an Armenian stitch. It's called a Marash stitch from the town of Marash. It's an interlaced, intricate stitch. And the one on the thing on the white is me trying to learn how to do that stitch. And the same, it's the one with the peacocks and pomegranate. That's another Marash style, a different style, but Marash work stitch. It's going to eventually go on the laurel cope. In CAID, they have this tradition where every time somebody's become a laurel, they are enveloped by this huge cape with the different people's arms on it that belong to the laurel order. So you're sort of being wrapped by the order.
I love that.
Yeah, so I'm sort of making my version of it. And the one next to it, again, I'm still using those Armenian stitches, and it's a needle case that sort of opens up, and there's like a tongue. It's like a flower. You open it up. So these are like Armenian stitches, this picture.
Very cool.
These are my beasts. Much more elaborate, but I make these for largesse. There are dragons, phoenix, hedgehogs, dolphins, sea creatures. I think in the back, one of the newest ones is those crescent, like in the right, upper right.
Oh,
yeah, those are the 4 crescents. Are like the populous badge of CAID. And you see in the basket, some of those hanging from there is the tassels from fabric yarn that I dyed from there as well. Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, one of the first those tassels are one of the first things that I dyed. They're still, they're tied to that basket. Again, I made these for King and Queen of CAID down here. The queen has a Egyptian persona, and that's her symbol. And William is the boar, which is also my symbol. My Chinese symbol is the boar. So I made these as well to go along with the largesse stuff. I don't do these as much, but very special people, which includes these 2 guys, get to have something like that from me. This is from the Bardic champion of Glamere, Baldric. I don't know if I was the first one for the barony, but they needed regalia, and since I was making it, I decided instead of having the usual Celtic harp, your European harp, I used the Babylonian golden calf lyre as the symbol for Bardic.
I love that.
And the teardrop is the populous badge of Glamere back there. So forever they get to have the Bardic champion wears something from the Middle East symbol. Speaking of Middle East, earlier I said that I wore dresses from Lebanon that had embroidery around it, and this is the kind of embroidery they had. But this actually was hand embroidered that I did. I used metallic thread, but it's the same kind of embroidery designs that you will see dresses from Lebanon and Syria would have. And there I am with that. This was at the museum that I volunteer at. It is the Ararat Eskijian Museum in Mission Hills, California. If anyone's interested, of course, it's closed until we open up again to the world. And I was talking to group of students about the Cilician culture, and I'm wearing what a Cilician would be wearing. And there I am with that collar, Byzantine orange dress. This is a picture of the Laurels with the king and queen. And I'm over there. Can you find me? I'm not going to say.
Oh, not fair.
Okay, I'll say because what I want to waste time. I'm in yellow. I'm in the right. Next to, almost next to the Herald there. Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
But there's that cope in the middle is
Mhm.
that with the different people arms on the big. So somebody said this is the don't mess with Garon or Garon, Mistress G, actually. They call me Mistress G in CAID. So this is the don't mess with Mistress G picture. But actually, court was going on and I was watching from far away. Nothing, I wasn't mad or anything. I think I was just concentrating.
Some of us just have that face.
Yeah, yeah. And I, you know, hopefully I don't all the time. This was, we're making these favors, token favors for the Queen. I wasn't officially on her retinue. I really love this group, His Majesty. Um, anyway, what's going on here is Mistress Flavia and I are working on making favors for the Queen to give out to people for their Bardic and ANS stuff. And actually, Mistress Flavia, this is the woman, she and her husband are the ones who saved Star Trek. But I knew her before I knew that actually. She was on the Natural Dyes email group. Um, so I had corresponded with her way before I knew she was even in the SCA or anything. But there I am wearing my Roman. But I was glad to at least participate one way or another in service. This was at 40 year in CAID, 40 year. It was extremely hot and they had like an artisan's village there. Different kind of art stuff happened and I set up my knitting stuff to, it's kind of class end demo. So over here I'm teaching somebody or talking to them about Mamluk style dyes, knitting in there. And I'm wearing Moroccan style because it is bloody hot. It was bloody hot, even in the shade. So you do what you can. It's not quite Armenian at all. It's Berber. If I was a Berber woman, that's what I'd be wearing.
You
It's
look
the outfit is called a hike, and it's sort of Roman style. It's like it's based on the Roman chitin type.
you look gorgeous.
So this, okay, here, this is, again, I'm wearing the ornament. This is, you remember I was talking about the scroll that said I was the emissary of Antir and that I have to show it to their majesties. This is the majesties that I showed it to. This is Bridget and Agrippa. And I also made them pouches too, it looks like. Yeah. So this picture is for when I did the oath and I presented them as a bribe. Please don't hate me, but see, I kind of belong to Antir, but I'm going to square filthy here kind of gifts. Here's some pouches I made for you. So, and I love this. Somebody caught this. This is like one-on-one teaching is one of my favorite kind of teaching. And this was a new guy and he was very enthusiastic and he just wanted to know everything. And I was teaching him about embroidery here.
So cool.
Yeah, I just love that.
I love seeing these younger, I'm going to say kids because I'm old. It's so cool. We already saw that one. Sorry. And
Yep,
that's,
so we're done. Oh, wow. Cool.
yeah, I told you it wasn't going to take forever.
Yeah, good. I was concerned about it taking forever. Pictures.
We are at about an hour and 40 minutes. So that's good. It's a good time.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not boring anybody.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Are there any other stories or anything else that you wanted to talk about tonight?
I'm sure there's tons of them. Yeah, I want to mention, and I think these kind of are related to SCA values, good or bad, kind of. Um, the first thing I would mention is diversity. I remember from even the beginning, um, didn't have to prove it, but I had to certainly validate to people how somebody who's not from a Western Europe culture would be in those days. We pretended Antir was England or France or something. So how would somebody from an Armenian be there? And I was like, let me tell you how, but I didn't. But I remember being uncomfortable seeing there are very few people of color or even like people like me from the Middle East about that. And I'm glad that they're addressing the issue now. Um, but there should be a lot more certainly going on. But on the good side of it is at my Laurel thing, um, and this is a story my dad told people um, when they ask about the SCA, hey, what's it like? And he would tell them about this incident. My vigil happened at a hotel meeting room in a mezzanine level. And I don't know if it was they didn't have elevators or it weren't working at the time or something. But on the only way to get there were these flights of stairs. And not just like 3 or 4 flights of stairs. I mean, like 20 stairs. And he was, as you saw, in a wheelchair. So these guys, and I'm sure one of them was Connor, because his job was to take care of my family, to look after them, so I don't have to worry. But there were these, I remember just, I don't remember who they are, but they were these average on-tier big guys. They looked at the situation. Okay, he needs to get there. He's in a wheelchair. Right. We'll just carry him in the wheelchair up those stairs so that he gets there. So they, and I think my sister also talks about this, and they were so amazed. And I remember at the time saying, well, yeah, that's what we're like, you know, but yeah, that was one of those sort of meet the SCA sort of thing, sort of situation. So yeah, it's a, you know, it's a work in progress, this place, you know, it has to be. Otherwise it wouldn't last very long, or really, especially during these times. But yeah, I remember at the time I just thought, well, yeah, of course they're going to carry my dad in his wheelchair up those stairs. You know, that's, we do this kind of stuff all the time. Yeah, but you know, they would never seen something like that in average people, average life. You know.
Yeah. No.
So I'm thinking also of Estrella. Um, Actually, this is again talking about how the people in this SCA are. And that year, it was a very hard year for CAID because the crown had to step down. It was very hard. And we are, this is before we were going to process into the Grand Court. We're standing in line getting ready. And along the way, when people would pass by on the way to court, they would always, you know, will cheer us on or say, hey, Kaid, way to go, or something. And by the time we got closer to the actual stadium or covered area where court was going on, um, there were like more, you know, encouraging words, and you know, they were really for us. And then by the time the heralds start to announce us in, and you know how they get all flowery, the Kaid, the land of the blah blah, you know, whatever. Like, I mean, there was a huge deafening roar. I mean, everybody was on our side, and I started like an idiot crying while I'm walking. I'm trying to be dignified, and I'm crying because it was such a nice release of, it was a dark time, and to see that people were encouraging us and were trying to cheer us on, and you know, that was one of those special memories, and it's the only time I've been to Australia, but that's what stood out for me with that.
That's wonderful. Duchess Dagmar is asking questions about how Middle Eastern culture is handled in the SCA.
Well, it's getting better. You know, as the research gets better and stuff. My first mission was about teaching people about Armenians. My other was to break down stereotypes about Middle East, because that's a big problem here in this place, and not just SEA. I mean, regularly, mundanely. But I think, in the beginning, Middle East or anything that wasn't Western, was this sort of like a fringe culture, was looked on as a fringe culture, not a legitimate culture to be in the organization, it seems to be. And it was like it existed only in belly dancing, like at campfires and stuff,
Yeah.
And but over the years, suddenly things have gotten, with classes, ITHRAs, events, serious minded people, groups, Middle Eastern SEA groups, trying to promote the culture, that has definitely improved, and the research as well. But I think it's the same. I've always had this thought that you bring into the SCA what you have outside of it. If you're a jerk outside the SCA, you're going to be a jerk in the SCA. So if you have a certain ignorance and um, prejudice about Middle Eastern culture outside, you're going to still see it and feel it when you're in there. But I think the hard work has paid off for these people, that it has become a legitimate culture in the SCA. So yeah, there are places like Australia was one of the places I wanted to go, because I remember because I was part of the Middle Eastern SCA email group type thing too, that they would have haflas and so yeah, I think it's improved,
Right.
but yeah, it's come a long way, but
We still
yeah,
have,
I still feel kind of inferior, because that's how I started to feel from the beginning.
we
And I'm
still,
glad to see more and more people are taking it seriously and legitimately, and that it's not just something you go to because the weather is hot, so you wear something Middle Eastern, or because you want to belly dance, and in the belly dancing is just another thing here, another issue. Yeah, that's been my other mission, is like, let's teach these people that belly dancing isn't just about jiggling your butt in front of somebody's face, that it's actually has, even to this day, a meaning behind, pregnancy, and it's a deeper meaning. And so when I get up and dance, that's what I try to show them, that it's not about, oh no, don't tell me that's why she brought that up. Oh shoot.
that's why she brought that up. She actually said, first she said, please talk about being Armenian and 9/11 if you're comfortable. And then she said, and how Middle Eastern culture is handled in the SCA.
Okay, yeah, well, okay, so that's kind of tied into the, no, I thought it was that other inside joke thing that we have. No, yeah.
She says, no.
I did feel sort of semi-safe in the SCA until 9/11, because yeah, as we know, there's always been prejudice about Middle Eastern people. Whenever there are people involved in wars in the Middle East, and America is involved in it, it's just a natural thing to have that have a higher profile. And so it gets harder for people who are Middle Eastern to become targets. So during 9/11, it was the worst time, because it was it became it, actually during the Gulf War is when it, for me, was the first time I started to feel like my actual life was in danger. But yeah, 9/11, we had in the Barony, as it happened, that was our regular drum circle night, workshop night. And we had discussed whether we were going to go ahead with it. And we decided, yeah, let's just go ahead, just if for nothing else than to be supportive for each other. But when I walked in, the big screen TV had scenes from 9/11 over and over again, and all sorts of different kinds of zines. And really, it ended up being a time where everybody was being accusatory towards me. It's such a like very off-putting way. And there was only one person who actually said, "Hey, leave her alone," you know. But from then on, I never went back to that house again. I know. But from then on, my mentality of thinking that I'm safe in the SCA totally changed, and it hasn't really. And I don't know if it'll ever go back again, because once in a while I'll see that thing. But yeah, that was the turning point for me. It was like we went ahead to hold this workshops just so that we could be supportive of each other, and it turned out to be, you are the enemy and we want answers from you. And you know, it was just, yeah,
I'm so
rough. But as what goes on, I'm not stopping from teaching people about the Middle East.
yeah. Well, clearly there's some ignorance happening there, and I'm so sorry that that happened.
Yeah, well, it's part of reality. You know, uh, when the movies show a certain culture in a certain stereotypical way, you know, one, it doesn't give people the incentive to learn about that culture, on their own, but um, but it just perpetuates it over the years. And when the leaders of the country do not further education, just perpetuate that image over and over again anyway, average people, because there's no, I mean, why should people do research on stuff? It's just, you got, you go to sports games, and you go to school with your kids, drop them off to soccer game, whatever. And it's like, why should you really? But after years of stuff like that, it's just in your head forever. And when troubles happen and that's the enemy, the people around you who look like that become the enemy. So it's because it's so ingrained. It comes up from, even from people that you thought were nice people, because it kind of digs it in. So, but there are still good enough people out there like Dagmar that are supportive and make me feel a little saner.
Well, we love you. And I
Thank
always
you.
have a safe place with us.
Thank you. Love
Yeah.
you, girl. Don't start. No, don't do it.
Somebody wants to know if you can talk a little bit about Armenian folk instruments.
Okay. So here's this part of the. I'm so proud of this research I did, and this was early on. I have the book behind the glass in the shelf that has a glass doors. It's so precious to me. But there's this book. It's memoirs of these two crusaders, French crusaders, in the French encampment in Jerusalem at the king's encampment. And they're talking about, this guy's talking about these Armenian brothers who came to entertain the king, and they did acrobatics and all sorts of things. And then they say that this one guy played this instrument that sounded like a swan. And I've never heard swans, but I was imagining what it was, probably is. And I use that later as my documentation when I use the music of this instrument to dance to. And it's called a duduk. It's a wind instrument, and it's a circular air kind of. The way you play it is that it's like a bagpipe kind of thing, only it's not. It's just this straight lute, not lute, geez, oboe-ish, clarinet-ish looking thing, different sizes. It's made of apricot wood from Armenia. I want to possess one just for the sake of possessing, but it has all the sad scenes in movies that you've seen. That's the instrument. Like Gladiator used it. Last Temptation of Christ used it. All of them seem to use it, and it's called duduk. Um, there is an instrument called tar. It's like a guitar. It's a string instrument. It's a small circular kind of um, long-necked instrument. There's a gamanche, which is like a violin, only it's not played like a violin. It's played, actually, it's like, here we go. Okay, this is what a duduk looks like. Can you see? These are like miniatures.
Yes, I can see.
And this is duduk. This is the da, which is like one of the drums. This is a ganon. It's like a hammer dulcimer. And the gamanche is it's you play it with a bow. This is from Iraq. This is the Iraq version of it. It's called rababa.
Wow.
But yeah, but the Armenian one is like it's shaped like the letter 8.
Mm-hmm.
And again, a long necked, and you play with a bow, horsehair, maybe goat hair. So those are the main instruments. They also play the darbaka, the doumbek, the darbaka,
Ah, okay.
and the frame drum. Oh. And anyway, the more recent one, they play tambourines now also.
Very cool.
So this area is my ode to Middle Eastern and Armenian music and things Middle Easty Armenian. And there's the bookshelf was full of books from Armenian and Middle Eastern subjects.
So cool. So do you currently have any students, any apprentices in the SCA?
No, but I'm thinking that I finally, I mean, I still have Jay Messina back in Bluemare. But when I first moved to CAID, again, I was still grieving about Dad. I didn't even sing until 3 years later, and I didn't really become active until a few years also. So I was still focused on learning about CAID and its traditions and things. In fact, I joined the royal retinue of Agrippa and David to learn about awards and traditions in that way. But so it's only actually within, and maybe it's because of being stuck at home because of COVID, that I have been thinking I should start taking somebody on or start looking for someone. And I've been actually in my head thinking, oh, who looks like they have potential? And is there anyone local? Because I think somebody local would be much easier to work with, much more productive.
And are you you ask them or they need to ask you type of person?
It doesn't matter. I think it's one of those things where when the time comes, the teacher will find you, the student will find you, kind of things. It just happened when with me, it was both. Mariam had asked me in the beginning, Shadra and Jamasina asked me actually Jamasina asked me before I even became a Laurel, but she asked me at the Yule feast before I became a Laurel and at 12th night. But yeah, Shadra, well, it was Shadra, that was fun. It was like crown tournament was going on, and she oh God, what is her guy's name? He was in the finals. Ethelred, yeah. So she had just asked me, and I was to be my apprentice, and then this thing's going on. I'm going, I don't know if she's going to be able to take on so much if this happens.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So I think it's just, I'm not going to, I'm thinking, I'm shifting to the point where, okay, we should see if there are people here that I can.
Okay, so people, the door is open.
Yeah.
She's ready.
But I think before then, I don't think I could have offered anything to anybody, just because, one, I was still grieving. I'll forever grieve over Dad, really, but I was just totally, I was his caregiver. So it really did hit me hard. But also trying to get used to this new kingdom, because, I came to America in 1971. So, and it was Washington State. And then when I joined the SCA, it was still Washington State. So I've been in Washington State all this time until, like, this is my 6th year in California until now. So I was just so focused and overwhelmed about trying to being in this new state, as well as this new kingdom, because it is different. There are some things that are different mundanely as well. Like, they are crazy drivers. First of all, they're nuts. But
So-
also, SCA wise, just trying to get used to the geographical. Like, I'll say, so where's 12th night? And they'll give me a name. I'm like, yeah, but where is that? So now I'm learning the names, the SCA names, as well as the mundane names. Oh, the freeways freak me out. The first time I saw like a weather map, the weatherman they're showing, not weather, but the traffic report. And it was like spiders of, because up in Washington, you got I-5 here and, 405 over there. There aren't that many. There's a lot of green space in between. But the first time I saw the map of the freeways, it really took me back. It's like, holy cow. So actually, I didn't drive. I absolutely did not drive here for at least 2 years, and definitely not at night. My sister used to live here before she moved up to Washington again. So she was my driver, but I would get like PTSD with the way they drive here sometimes.
Yeah. So I grew up in Southern California and moved to Washington. So I completely understand. I never did SCA in California, but I understand the culture shock mundanely. It's very different.
Yeah, and it's like, it also, it harkened back, and I think part of the reason why it was kind of semi-traumatic in that, imagine being a 12-year-old from a Middle Eastern culture coming to this legendary country, America, on your own. I was on my own on that airplane to America. And the English I spoke was British. So I had to learn and get used to all of these things. And it was a traumatic thing because the kids made fun of my accent, and made fun of the way I looked, and they called me fat. Nobody ever called me fat until I came to America, which totally traumatized me. And so coming to CAID was almost reliving that new kid in town time. And I really didn't like it. It was uncomfortable to feel that. So I think that plus grieving over Dad and all these things that were happening in the same time, I just didn't feel like going to an SCA event, or, I got to focus. California, where am I? What are the names? How do we get a license? Driver, do we want to drive in this place? First of all, So, but now I have finally, after 6 years, I feel comfortable. They are welcoming. I feel like I'm one of the people here, one of the CAIDians. So I'm fine, and I think that's part of the reason why I decided, I should look for an apprentice maybe now, or at least, start opening my eye a lot wider on what's out there for them, because now I'm comfortable with myself.
There's something to that. I lost my mom 7 years ago, and I just wasn't ready to take on an apprentice. And something changed last year for me. And I, kind of mentally opened that door, and now I have 3, which is perfect.
Yeah, I mean, perfect. You have to be, otherwise, what use are you as a teacher if you got all this other stuff blocking you? Yeah. So I didn't really think that that's what it was until actually me talking to you right now. Really, I just know that I know that I've been thinking that, yes, I should start actually looking for somebody, but I didn't know that's probably one of the reasons why. What's the psychological reason behind it? I know that part of it is because I wasn't comfortable being in a new state after being 40 something years in Washington State, that could be part of it, but it's because all of that, including grief, was in there as well.
And I think one of the things, we should probably close it down pretty quick. But I think one of the disservices that we do to each other in the SCA is that we expect people to persevere in their SCA lives, no matter what's going on in their mundane lives. But if you're dealing with something big in your personal life, it's okay to resign that position or to take a break from your marriage or whatever, to step back and get yourself solid and get yourself straight before you come back and do active.
I think it's advisable to do that. And I think, isn't it like our, not motto, but don't we always say life comes first, right? Or family comes first than SCA. SCA is your pastime. Yep. You know, it's not supposed to be something that encompasses everything in your life. It's the other way around.
Balance.
Otherwise, you're not a healthy person.
Right. Balance is very important.
Yeah. And I'm a Libra, so I'm all about balance.
There you go. Do you have any parting words before we say goodnight?
Parting words. Oh, I know. I began this the way Armenians start storytelling. I'm going to end it the way Armenians finish storytelling. 3 apples fell from the sky. I should say 3 pomegranates, really. But 3 apples fell from the sky. 1 is for me, 1 is for the storyteller, and 1 is for the one who entertained you today. Basically, it's all for me. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for tonight. I'm sorry, I'm really emotional. I love you, and we'll talk soon.
Don't ever be sorry about being emotional, and I love you back. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Bye. Thanks for saving our lives with your interviews, girl.